Yeah, so on the surface layer, the exchange of this heat and water taking place. And when you go down, go deep into the in the lower layers, or if you go on the where the water bodies are present, for example, the oceans, seas, and large lakes, their effect is smaller, but they can affect or influence the local weather conditions. Hurricanes have been found to intensify when they pass over soil that is saturated with water. जो तूफानी हवाएं जो चलती हैं वो कहाँ पर ज्यादा होती हैं, वो कह रहा है कि एक्चुअली जहाँ पर सॉइल वाटर जो होता है वो सब वाटर जो होते हैं वो सेचुरेटेड होते हैं, वहाँ पर इंटेंसिफिकेशन ज्यादा हो जाती है. And meteorologists have found that their forecast can be improved if they factor soil temperature and moisture into their calculations. So, in order to determine whether what kind of with which speed the winds will be blowing, carrying all the dust particles, their estimation can be better off if we take into consideration the soil temperature and the moisture in that particular area. The next one is the weathering or soil formation. Now, we know what is weathering. It is the breakdown of the particles of the rocks and removal of it and lodging of it on somewhere else. So if the earthquakes and volcanoes that create the land we live on, however, it is a natural environment and the weather that shape and breaks it down. You know, for example, if the volcano is being erupted, it became active, then all the material which is coming down out of it, expelling out of it, will constitute the Earth's surface, and the kind of the material which has been emitted out will determine the kind of the vegetation over there. But for the vegetation, all the properties that we have gone through earlier must be there for the life to exist. So the breaking down of the rocks and other materials on the Earth's surface is called weathering. So this is a simple definition of weathering. And it consists of two types. So there are two types of weathering. One is the mechanical weathering, which is a breakup of the rocks into the smaller and smaller pieces until you have sand or soil. And the second one is the chemical weathering, in which when the actual chemical makeup of the rock is changed due to the addition of water or acidic, that is due to water and the pH conditions of the soil. So actually deterioration of the soils takes place chemically as well as physically. And when we talk about the physical weathering, we are talking about the mechanical weathering also. So the mechanical weathering happens all around us, the changes in the temperature from season to season, the impact of the frost and the freezing all help break up solid rock over long periods of time. For example, the frost has occurred and because of the time of that snow will occur if you put pressure on the rocks bed, on the surface of the rocks, and will bring about the breaking down of the rocks into smaller particles. And obviously this practice keeps on going with the passage of time because the weather is always changing. Mechanical and chemical changes keeps on going because of the environmental conditions. It keeps on changing also. How fast and how slow it takes place depends upon the conditions. So the chemical weathering also includes the damage to the rocks by plants. Yes, plants are also doing some damage to the plants, to the rocks where they are growing. Have you ever seen cracks through the concrete yes, rocks. In the rocks, you can see the different cracks also, and that may be due to the gravity-induced events like landslides, overall natural plantation, which comes from the weathering down of the rock from wind, moving water, or volcanic eruptions, and even rain. So, meaning to say that the chemical weathering can occur because of the different changes in the environmental conditions. It may be due to the landslides. It may be because of the fast wind blowing through and breaking down the different particles, and the effect will depend upon the availability of the vegetation in that particular area. Also, the moisture content determines the presence of the plants or vegetation. So chemical weathering is also very common. Chemical weathering is often encouraged by the presence of water. We know the water puts pressure, and whenever it passes through, it results in the carrying away the different particles along with it. The water, when combined with the carbon dioxide, may result in the formation of carbonic acid, which is acidic in nature and which may bring about chemical decomposition of the rocks. And there are certain rocks which maybe get dissolved in water. No, not all of it. Meaning to say that the breakdown of the or the breakdown of the particles do occur wherever the conditions become acidic because of the combination of water and carbon dioxide. And obviously, whenever anything is dissolved in water, it results. We call it that particular thing is soluble in it. So there are other types of the naturally occurring chemical weathering, which is oxidation. You know what that oxidation is? That is removing of the breakdown of the molecules in the presence of oxygen. Carbonation, then sulfuric acid is there, which may break down the particles into its components, and the plant acids. That is, certain plants, while penetrating through the soil, produces certain acids, which may bring about the decomposition of the particles, and thus makes place for them for the roots to grow in. So oxidation is when oxygen is combined with another substance and results in the formation of an entirely new substance. And obviously, the most obvious example is that of the creation of fuel. And when iron ores are exposed to oxygen, it changes to rust. So meaning to say, and you know, when we talk about rust formation, we are talking about the oxidation reduction processes. And we know that if any of the iron is there in its ferric state, that is having the oxidation state of 3, may change into oxidation state of 2 by taking up of oxygen, and the reduction will occur. And the same way, when the oxidation state increases, it results in the formation of what you call oxidation state, and the process is called oxidation. So oxidation reduction process within the plants within the soil is one of the source by which the weathering occurs. And we also know that when the carbon dioxide is produced by the animals, gets dissolved in water, it results in the formation of carbonic acid, which increases the pH of the soil. And because of the pH of the soil, increase in pH of the soil, certain chemical reaction may occur, and the breakdown of the particles will occur. This acid rather weak, but it does react to some rocks such as limestone, dissolve them slowly. In the similar way, the pollutants in the air are sometimes combined with the rainwater to form sulfuric acid or acid rain. So sulfuric acid is being produced whenever any sulfur compound combines with water, results in the formation of acid rain. Sulfuric acid is much more harmful than carbonic acid because it's a strong acid as compared to carbonic acid, and it will react not only with rocks, but will react with plants and animals as well, particularly the fish. So meaning to say that the acidic conditions may arise because of the combination of different acids which have been produced, and when it combines with water, results in formation of solution which is acidic in nature, and that acidic condition may bring about the breaking down of the particles and changing of it into different states. Now, these plants themselves, as mosses and lichens, produce their own weak acids. Where I just told you there's a plant that do produce certain organic compounds within their body. Though they are weak, but still when they combine with these particles may have some effect, no matter whether it is mild or not, mild or strong, but the chemical reaction does takes place, and if it keeps on going, it may result in causing harm to the rocks or the particles present there. So whether by plant, carbonic or sulfuric acid, or by oxidation, chemical weathering plays a huge role in the breaking down of the solid rock into smaller and smaller pieces until eventually soil is formed. So actually it is the conscious degradation of the particles of the rocks to the smallest possible sizes, whereby they can be removed with the help of certain sources like water or wind to certain other places. And when they lodge over there, they result in the formation of a soil. And if, for example, they are not being carried away, or they are located in such a way that they are not being carried away to certain other places, then it may result in the formation of soil and may make a way for the plants which are capable of growing over there on it. Because the turning of the soil of the rocks is essential for the growth of the plants. So the formation of soil is extremely important to more living organisms, both plants and animals in the world. And this breaking up results in the formation of nutrients, which are very essential for the plants to grow. And obviously, this also in turn provides food to the animals, which in turn provide food for other animals and so on. So actually, what you call it, a food chain is being created. That is, when the plants come to lie or cover certain area, it results, they become themselves the food for certain animals, and those will depend on those animals. They take their part of energy by utilizing them. So the soil itself is often a combination of residual soil, transported soil, and the humus. Now here said, for example, there is a rock from where certain removal of the particles have taken place, and whatever left over there is a residual soil. Some of the particles have gone away, some of the particles there, Those which are there, we call it residual soil, and some of the particles, they may have arrived there because of the water or the wind erosion, and they have lodged at that place. So a combination of residual soil and transported soil occurs, and if somehow some organic matter is being produced over there, then it will constitute a soil itself. So the constitution of the formation of soil will be completed by the particles which are retained there as a residual soil, some of the particles which are transported there, and the humus itself. So they actually have constituted the soil whereby the plants can grow. So residual soil is a remain of the original parent rock that has been broken up from the weathering. Transported soil which has been carried from some place to that particular place where the residual soil is present, and humus is the dark colored material which is being produced by the decomposition of the organic matter. So these three things, how they constitute soil, you have just gone through it. So now the specific composition of the soil, however, varies from the place to place. It depends upon that what kinds of particles are there, what kind of humus content is there, how much amount of water is there, what is the temperature in that particular area, and whether the water available in the soil is in the deeper layers or in the surface layers. All of these things, they constitute and are determined whether the plants will be growing over there or not, and what kind of the plants will be growing over there. So it all depends upon the characteristics which are characteristics of soil. So it may vary from area to area. So the soil composition of the Pacific coast of the British Columbia is often quite different from the soil composition of the drier interior. So meaning to say, it all depends upon the kind of the weather or the that is the kind of the soil available is subject to the conditions which determines the formation of that particular soil. So the amount of rainfall and the different degrees of the plant life uh, abundance will play a part. Now, then we come on to salinity and waterlogging in Pakistan. This is a very important topic. And Pakistan Indus Basin irrigation system, that is the irrigation system that we have, and the artificial way of supplying water to the areas for the growth of the crops actually makes, though it is helpful in order to increase the agriculture produce, but it is also harmful because we do not take into consideration that how much water is to be supplied and what are the limitations for supplying, making available water to the plants for its growth. So its creation is to be tribute to the British, and this actually was being constituted by the British irrigation system, that is who served this country from, who remained in this country from 1847 to 1947, almost 100 years, which Pakistan inherited in 1947. The Pakistan irrigation engineers and institutions, particularly the Water and Power Development, Arbitrary and Provincial Irrigation Department, who have spent the last 60 years adding new dams, barrages. So actually, the system we obtained from the works of the British who colonized this area for almost 100 years. And along with that, we also did form certain dams and barrages in order to retain water for the productivity of our crops. And certainly, we also created certain links and branch canals and modernizing them and maintaining the world's most complex and extensive irrigation system. And starting from 1950s, the generosity and intellectual input of the host international experts and international. And this is all actually what happened is that the irrigation system was being framed by these British people, and we have made certain improvement in order for our own survival and to increase the productivity of the crops in Pakistan. And this irrigation system actually is based on River Indus and its 5 tributaries, that is Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Sutlej, and Bias. These are the 5 rivers that we have, which actually have been derived from the Indus, River Indus, and they are all connected to one another. But it was plagued by its seasonal nature and lack of surface storage. That is, we couldn't store the amount of water which was coming in through these tributaries. So 30% of the cultivated land of 35 million acres was affected by waterlogging and salinity. Actually, this waterlogging and salinity is a problem which is being caused that when we give excess amount of water to the lands and without taking into consideration how much is to be given to it, then water table actually, because we have earlier studied there's a excess of water that goes into deeper layers and enters into the water table, and that water table keeps on moving upward. So when the water table moves to the extent whereby it comes towards near to the surface of the earth, then the growth of plants stops. That is, the plants stop growing over there because of the excess of water. And one of the solutions for getting rid of it was to make use of the tube wells by which we used to expel the water in order to bring down the water table to the lower regions for cultivating our crops. But in doing so, what happens is when water goes downward, it leaves salts on the surface of it. And those salts, they make the soil in which we cannot do any culture, grow any plants at all. So actually, the salinity is caused by waterlogging. Waterlogging was caused because of the excess amount of water given to the different lands, and the water table came upward. When it went down because of the use of this expelling of water from the soil through tube wells, it left the salts over there, and those salts made the soil unfertile. So next, the future IBIC strategy is that what we should do, we should try to use or limit the amount of water to the extent whereby it may not become a source for water logging. Because excess of it actually results in bringing about the consequences. And what are the consequences? Waterlogging and salinity itself, and the becoming of the land a barren land. And actually, we should meet the IWA requirements. What is IWA? It is international. It is International Water Association. International Water Association, which actually has demanded certain requirements for the use of utilization of this water, excess of water. Now, in order to get rid of this menace of waterlogging and salinity, we must focus on creating additional surface areas, additional surface storage to offset both the intra-year variations in the yes, that is creating additional surface storage to offset both the intra-year variation in the land Indus River system and its 3 to 5 years flood and drought cycle. That is, we should look into that how much of the excess of water enters into it, and we must make certain arrangements in order to restore that amount of water which is being released and during this flooding time, that is during summer. So surface water preservation or during whenever the floods came in or excessive rainfall takes place. So that excessive rainfall actually results in production of or availability of large amount of water. And now this is our responsibility to take care and to find means to restore that amount of water in a way that it may not make the land waterlogged. So surface water preservation, particularly by limiting canals in saline areas and water courses improvement. That is, those areas where the soil salinity also already exists, the water should not be supplied to that particular area in excess. So groundwater conservation and salinity control by discouraging excessive TW use. That is, the tube wells should not be used in order to lower the water level and leaving behind the land salinized. So the excess of the two wells should be stopped, and the best way is that we should control the availability of water before the condition which makes the land waterlogged arises. Encouraging general efficiency of irrigation water use through improved land management techniques, including land leveling, and also by changing the kharif cropping pattern away from water-intensive rice to sunflower. So meaning to say those crops which utilizes maximum amount of water and for which the water is being given unlimitedly, they should be avoided, and some other crops should be grown in that area and that particular period. That is the kharif period. And yield enhancement through improved farming practices. That is, instead of putting our all what you call putting our instead of using excess of water and fertilizers, unlimited use of fertilizers, we should do. We should improve our farming practices, and we should adopt hybrid seeds and increase fertilizers and pesticides use. So adopting hybrid and increased fertilizer, and so actually we should not use these fertilizers and pesticides in excess, and may adopt certain means by which we can reduce their utilization. So fully meeting environmental concerns of the Indus Delta River system and well and wetlands. This together with a clear vision that IBIS would publicly owned and operated, but with sensible institutional reforms. So we need to say that we should avoid excess amount of water to be utilized. We should make use of the latest techniques in order to increase our crops, and we should do better farm management so that the whatever land which is available to us for agriculture should be utilized properly. All right, Ji. So here we come to end of this topic, and I hope that you will go through it and will learn a lot from it. अच्छा, वो मैंने सारे के सारे CMS पे करवा दिए हुए हैं, आप ना ये ले सकते हैं नोट्स, ठीक है? वहाँ पे आ गए, शाबाश, इसको ले लें आप, और इनको अच्छे तरीके से आपने तैयार करना है ताकि आपको अच्छे जो है मार्क्स वगैरह मिल सके, ठीक है? ओके जी, अब आप यूँ करें कि मुझे है ना इसके अटेंडेंस आपने भेज देनी है ताकि मैं इनको कर दूँ। ओके जी, हाँ कि जी इन एडवांस में मेरी तरफ से ईद मुबारक आप सब लोगों को, हाँ, एंजॉय करो। हाँ, थैंक यू वेरी मच, सो नाइस ऑफ यू। अल्लाह हाफिज। अल्लाह हाफिज।
Recording stopped.